Hello there. Yes, this is the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser, and I'm with Stacy Herbert. And today we're going to talk once again about the global nightmare that is the global economy and the global death spiral. Stacy, tell us more.
Actually, Max, the death spiral is in Greece.
Oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. But in particular, it's in Greece, yes.
Today it is. Tensions rise in Greece as austerity measures backfire. This is a Der Spiegel article, and they're focusing on Greece, and they see that unemployment is up to 70% in some regions, and in Athens, up to 17% of all shops have closed. So this is the result of the economic death spiral. And I want you to look at this chart. A credit crunch leads to an economic downturn, which leads to a deepening credit crunch, which leads to further economic contraction, which leads to business failures, unemployment, individual bankruptcies, and then finally, economic chaos.
So austerity, therefore, was not a good idea in Greece. It's not a good idea probably anywhere in the world in this type of environment, which has been victimized by banking fraud and predatory bankers who ripped the guts out, stole the money. So in response, they're going to impose austerity on the people, actually just to pay for the banker bonuses, not to help the people.
Well, all the measures being done around the world, from austerity measures to quantitative easing, are usually employed right about at the economic chaos juncture, right when you're erupting into giant revolution. And in fact, the Der Spiegel article does quote a man who, I can't pronounce his name, so I won't say it.
Don't ask me to. I'm terrible at that.
But he's an unemployed dock worker, and he says, "The only thing that interests me anymore is my daily wage. A loaf of bread is my political party. If you take away my family's bread, I'll take you down. The government needs to know that."
Well, it's indentured servitude and subsistence toiling in the fields of the neo-feudal economy. We hope from leaders that they can keep economies growing to the extent that you don't have this desperate hand-and-mouth existence. The leadership has failed.
Yeah, but Max, it's actually beyond that. If you really pay attention to that quote,
tell me.
It's beyond that. The man is saying that he's not concerned about unions. He doesn't care about any of the political parties. All he cares about is his bread. And if he's not eating now, today, it's revolution. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what economic chaos is. It's beyond indentured servitude. It's beyond hand-to-mouth existence. It's the next step, which is economic chaos.
I understand one man in the street is talking economic chaos. Is there a movement? I mean, there's a few protesters, there's a few Molotov cocktails, there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But is there truly a movement afoot? I mean, is there organization behind this, or just yap, yap, yap?
There is no organization behind chaos. That's the exact definition of chaos.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, is when you introduce quantitative easing, as has been done during the Russian Revolution, during the French Revolution, during the Civil War in America, obviously those are times of economic chaos. So let's move beyond what's happening outside the moat. U.S. oil speculators fined for $100 a barrel vanity trade. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission has fined ConAgra $12 million for driving the price of oil up to $100 in January 2008, just for vanity purposes. They wanted to be the first guys to buy $100 oil. As they put it, some people collect art prints, we collect price prints.
That's right, price prints. Of course, I know what this is all about.
Explain what price prints are to us, Max.
Well, you know, when you're a stockbroker, like I was for so many years, when you do a trade, you like to see what you just did flicker across the ticker tape. That's the print. You say, if I bought 10,000 shares of something, it would actually appear on the tape. You know, XYZ Corp, 10,000 buy, tick, 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 and you're like, that's me. I did that. I'm part of the economy. You say, so it's a vainglorious pursuit to have, you know, your name attached to. And of course, the bigger the trade, the better. You know, Wall Street, as we know, is basically just a weenie-waving contest of guys trying to get big trades on the ticker tape. But so this ConAgra fella, he is just doing this for vainglorious pursuit. And the sad thing is that when you put a price up there, it changes the entire global market. So millions of people around the world, in this case, this was price propaganda as it relates to oil. It changes the lives of millions of people. There should be regulations against it, of course. But the people who should be regulating are the people who are in the pocket of companies like ConAgra and the major market makers around the world.
Well, he was fined $12 million.
Oh, big whoops.
The cost, of course, to the global economy was billions and billions, and contributed, of course, to the collapse of the entire financial system. But let's move on to, speaking of vanity trading, we have another headline, the rise and plunge of movie futures trading. Max, you're in the news again?
I'm in the news again. They love me in Hollywood, in Cantor Fitzgerald.
What is going on here? So you're being, once again, blamed for destroying movie futures trading or saving the world from movie futures trading.
I've saved the world from Keiser Fitzgerald and movie futures trading.
But you talk about, we're talking about neo-feudalism, and you mentioned the arrogance of Keiser Fitzgerald and Variana, which is the other movie futures trading platform, where they were arrogantly assumed that the peasants would accept their market.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started the company, we had the same problem with the MPAA back 15, 16 years ago. So we totally avoided the MPAA. I try to communicate that to Cantor, who bought my company. They were tone deaf, and they ran into the exact same obstacle, and they'll end up doing exactly what I was trying to do 15 years ago, which is introduce virtual currencies, virtual trading, use the Hollywood dollar as basically a game, quote-unquote, piece, and they got to be the most overrated firm on Wall Street at this point. They're completely mismanaged. They have absolutely no idea what they're doing.
Well, let's stay in Hollywood here. Is it the end for gate crashing? A proposed new law in California would make it illegal to gate crash a Hollywood party. You would face 1 year in prison.
This is what I'm talking about. Hollywood it's a feudal system. As I told the reporter from The Wrap, who did the story on me just last week, Hollywood is a feudal system run by feudal lords.
Well, you have the right word there, feudal, because I don't even think it's neo-feudal. It never left feudalism. It's always been feudal, and right now we have a kind of neo-feudalism because we did go through a period of democracy and freedom and republicanism, and but now all that's going back. So we have neo-feudalism in the rest of the economy, and we have feudalism still in Hollywood.
And why this is important, Stacy Herbert, is because when people talk about Enron accounting, off-balance sheet accounting, booking profits now and deferring losses for eternity, that is based on Hollywood accounting. Before there was Enron accounting, there was Hollywood accounting. Hollywood invented the cooked books accounting that ate Wall Street and ate the American economy. So it's important to follow the trends there. And the box office futures contracts that I invented, that Cantor tried to do and failed, that would have put another arrow in the quiver of those feudal lords out there. That's why I don't support it in America. Maybe outside of America, but not in America.
Well, speaking of feudal lords and neo-feudal lords and media, is Fox and Funds. News Corp donates $1 million to Republican Governors Association. So this is Rupert Murdoch, and he's, now that the Supreme Court has ruled that corporations in America, which are ruled previously as human beings, basically, they have the rights of human rights. Now they have the exception of being able to donate unlimited amounts to any political party. So News Corp has donated $1 million, and they say that it's because they believe in the power of free markets.
Rupert Murdoch, have you ever noticed that News Corp is one of the worst performing stocks on the New York Stock Exchange, has been for years? Because this guy can't compete on an open playing field. He goes into the new economy space with MySpace, fails. He takes one of his big publications in the UK behind a firewall, paywall, and fails. When he's trying to compete head-to-head with real competitors, he's a failure. Oh yeah, he can make a few coin being in the monopoly business, maybe in the satellite business. He can be a rent-charging monopolist, an oligarch. Big whoops, a rhesus monkey can make money this way. But as a businessman on an open pitch, head-to-head with real competitors, he's a failure.
Well, Max, you mentioned his online failures, including MySpace. Of course, those have failed because it's open platform. It is a genuinely free market. It's all net neutrality. Every single site competes equally with the other. So he is one of the people behind and introducing toll booths, whether it's a paywall, but some are hoping to get an entire paywall there. So Murdoch's new iPaper, one last tragic roll of the digital dice. And the journalist here says, "Oh, Rupert, you crazy old lunatic." What's remarkable about this current escapade is that Murdoch is actually proposing to sell a product that people have previously failed to even give away for free. Well, the previous failure was actually Rupert Murdoch's own publication in the UK, the London paper, and he tried to give this away for free. It was supposed to be lighthearted news, like none of the gory details of anything that matters. It was supposed to be for young people. Well, now he's doing it online, and it's only going to be available online, and he's hoping that young people will pay.
Well, he's using money on every unit sold and hoping to make it up on volume.
Well, it might work if Google, Verizon get their way, because if you introduce toll booths into the economy, into the online economy, then of course these feudal lords can control whether or not who gets fast access, who gets slow access, which sites, which content creators have slow access. So first, I'm going to go back to July in this headline. Barry Diller worries about the internet toll booth. Again, toll booths are very crucial to a feudal economy. And here's Barry Diller, billionaire media, tycoon. And he says that a toll booth would equal basically giving fast access to certain companies like Fox and slow access to other companies like, say, us.
Yeah. So the U.S. taxpayer builds the internet vis-a-vis DARPA, which was a government project. The U.S. taxpayer underwrites the banks to bails them out, the banks that finance companies like Google and Verizon. So Google and Verizon, in return, stab the customer, stab the consumer, stab the taxpayer in the back. I'd like to address the founders of Google. I'd like your mom to take you over her knee and give you a good spanking, because you kids over there at Googleplex in California deserve a good spanking from your mom, because you are an embarrassment and you have a shame. You brought shame. Shame.
Well, actually, so that continuing on that headline of the toll booths, Google and Verizon outline vision for open internet. Their open internet is exactly what Barry Diller previously described as toll booths. So with this, I'm thinking Google might be, the next headline might explain why Google is all for now introducing toll booths. And that's Google chief, my fears for generation Facebook. So he's afraid that too many young people are giving all of their private data to Facebook willingly. Google has been collecting it via them and NSA databases, like creaming it all secretly.
Now, here's a good idea for Merkel in Germany. Why not resurrect the old Stasi in East Germany and take it public and call it Google Stasi? You'll make an instant $100 billion. All right, Stacy Herbert, thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you, Max.
Don't go away. When we come back, everything digital. We're going to London, so stay there.
Life in Russia would be so much brighter if you knew more about someone from first impressions. Meet friends.rt.com.
Welcome back to the Keiser Report. Time now to go to London and speak with Richard Buchanan. He's got something quite interesting. It could herald the beginning of a whole new era in labor relations, maybe. Facebook Users Union. Richard Buchanan, welcome to the Keiser Report.
Hello, Max. How are you?
All righty. Now, Richard Buchanan, you've started a Facebook Users Union. Why? And how many have joined so far? Tell us about this.
The reason I started the Facebook Users Union is to highlight the fact that these companies are effectively digitally sharecropping the users. They operate as cooperatives, but they pay themselves as private companies.
All right, hold on. Hold on. You have a term there, digital sharecroppers. So if I am to understand you correctly, the people on Facebook are giving all of their work, essentially, all the hours they spend creating stuff, social networking stuff, filling the database of Facebook, and they get really nothing in return. Is that correct?
Well, they're not getting nothing in return. However, the returns are extremely great. And the Facebook Users Union is effectively being set up to enable users to collect a small percentage of the value they're creating for the shareholders of Facebook every year. I mean, if you take a quick figure of, say, 10% of the value of a user, maybe they're worth 20 cents. But if you scale that up into the 500 million, then you kind of get an interesting figure to do some interesting and good things with, I think.
What is that figure?
I don't know, because I don't know what the average Facebook user is worth.
Okay, I can tell you that number right now.
Find out, I think.
It's Facebook on the private exchange is trading for $15 billion. They get around $2 to $2.50 per user per year, which is different than Google, which gets close to $20 per user per year. So Facebook has, as you point out, 500 million users. They're on track to getting 1 billion users. And each of those users contributes approximately $2 a year in revenue to Facebook. So you're saying that at the very least, you would think that the Facebook users would get back maybe 25 or 30% of that money.
Well, no, not even that much. I mean, I think 10% would be a fair amount. I mean, it's a lot of money, and I think that we as the users deserve that. I don't think it's out of order to ask for the ability to help distribute the profits. I think that would be a very good thing to do. And I think, it's something that is going to happen eventually. It has to happen because the users are so entwined with these social network companies that, you can't avoid the fact that they have a lot of power over these companies, and people should realize that.
Right, so it's digital sharecropping, as you point out. Now, to extend on that metaphor a little bit, what we see happening on companies like Facebook and on websites and social networking sites like Facebook is the introduction of virtual currencies. And you see this in their game Farmville, and you see this with virtual currency companies like Zynga. And not only are the users of Facebook not getting compensated for their work, but more and more they're being forced to accept debts in the form of negative virtual currencies. In other words, if they are rewarded for doing good things, like visiting sites that, well, on the political front, they could be rewarded for visiting sites that support America's empire attempts. And then on the negative side, if they don't support some of these activities, they get hit with a debit. So again, it's the sharecropper mentality. In other words, every single year, you start in debit, and then you've got to click on ads throughout the entire year to get yourself out of debt. And, of course, if you don't succeed, you're off the network and excommunicated, and you're left off the grid. Is that kind of what the concerns are?
Well, I mean, the concerns are multifaceted. I mean, on one hand, you have the privacy issue, the fact that our information is locked in a digital prison, effectively, so you can't leave even if you want to because you're so invested in the network. I think that's an issue that I would like to raise. But first and foremost, I think the issue is specifically to do with the fact that people are working for Facebook, and it might not feel like they're working for Facebook, but they're creating value. And, after 10 years of being on a service like Facebook, they're going to have a lot of information about you. And effectively, they'll know everything about you. They'll know all of your friends, they'll know all of your tastes and likes. And I think that that's really valuable, and I think that we should be compensated for that. I don't think they should be able to have wield so much power over their users, which they will be able to do in a number of years, I think.
Yeah, I was struck recently by the story of a woman who was so happy. She only had to work on Facebook for 30 hours to earn enough virtual credits to go down to 7-Eleven and use these credits or somehow some kind of conversion scheme to pick up roughly $1 worth of trinkets. So here you have Americans and Britons who are happy to be working for 50, 60 cents a day, to toiling in the Facebook ghetto, just giving them all their work and all of their information, and they're happy about it. So how do you explain the fact that people don't seem to think that hard currency means anything anymore, or their labor shouldn't be paid in any way? Is there a mass delusion going on that people are willing to accept their new status as digital sharecroppers?
I think people are happy to accept the status because they don't really, recognise that there's an opportunity here to create a different way of doing things. There are other services in the making. Diaspora is one, and they are a peer-to-peer social networking service, and they enable you to keep your own data. You can choose who you want to share it with, and it's not centralised, it's decentralised. So in that respect, I think people, once they have a serious alternative to Facebook, 500 million people is close to 1 billion. It gives them a massive advantage, just because, it attracts, the gravity of the system attracts more people. But until there's a serious alternative, I think people have nothing but to be happy about the situation. In light of that, it would be a good experiment for us as the users to come together and try to change the system. I think that it would almost give us an opportunity to redefine the relationship between consumer value and company profit, and I don't think that could be a bad thing in any way. I think it would be positive. Diaspora. It's an American alternative. It's an interesting experiment because it was funded in a decentralized way, a little bit like Pirate My Film, really, on a system called Kickstarter, by 4 young guys, and they seem to know what they're doing. So hopefully they could be a serious player in the social networking world, I think.
Now, so you're talking about alternative sites and models to this Facebook model, and Facebook, as you point out, with 500 million users, soon to be 1 billion users. It's ironic that in the United States, of course, you've got this emergent Tea Party political movement, which is against big government, but they don't seem to understand that there's something even bigger, which is rising in their midst, which is a dictatorial social networking site. And playing right into that is this news of Google and Verizon coming together to try to push out this concept of net neutrality and bring in a multi-tier net, which would obviously bring class war, which was absent from the Internet and only seen in the United States and Britain. It would then bring that right into the Internet. So the rich and poor divide, the digital sharecroppers and the digital feudal lords would be battling each other. What's your take on this Verizon-Google announced deal?
Well, a lot of people are disappointed about it. If you read some of the comments on the Google's public policy blog, you can get a flavour of that for yourself. But for me, it feels a little bit frightening. They're saying they're not going to touch the public broadband networks. However, that's like public access television. Maybe it won't get invested in because it will become outmoded, I think, and we'll end up with 100 media companies, and everything else will just fall by the wayside. Same story, it's happening again. So,
right.
What can you say?
So if they own the pipes, the infrastructure, the web itself, it's difficult to aggregate economies of scale, bringing in new economic models. The only country that seems to be willing to go forward in that direction is Iceland, and of course they are currently hosting WikiLeaks.org, which is doing the job of the New York Times and every other media outlet that has fallen down on the job and failing to report adequately on what's going on around the world. So what about the idea of, Iceland? I don't know if you follow the story, but they're introducing a new free speech zone, and they're hosting sites like WikiLeaks.org. Would you potentially take your movement of getting paid on the Facebook unions? If that fails, would you consider moving or creating something in Iceland, where apparently they're the only country now willing to support democracy and free speech?
Well, I don't think we should run away from the place we're at. I think that we have to stay here and do something innovative with the system we have. It's a very powerful system, and you can really create change. People just have to be switched onto it. As for free speech, I think it's brilliant that Iceland are taking the initiative here and protecting the rights that we deserve and we've earned over the years. But I think that people should seriously consider signing up to the Facebook Users Union because
let me ask you this. Now, the Facebook Union on Facebook, there was a movement for people to drop off Facebook just a few months ago. It got no traction at all, or it had a bit of a move when it was during the period when it was revealed that Facebook's policy toward privacy was a sham. and that forced them to completely throw out another PR spin ball out there to try to get back on track. But a lot of people dropped off Facebook, but their growth rate was not interrupted at all. So how do you force back? How do you push back? Okay, you're getting people to join your. How many people do you have so far on your group?
Well, at the moment we have 1,000 people. 50 people joined just this morning, so it's growing quite rapidly. We have an off-hub site called on Ning, facebookusersunion.ning.com, and that's growing as well. I mean, you know, these things take time, but in order to push back against Facebook, I think, you know, I committed Facebook suicide about 2 years ago. I committed Facebook suicide, and I returned, and I've got quite strong willpower. So this system is here to stay, or systems like this are here to stay. So I think we can't really push back, but maybe we can innovate collectively to do something different, because, you know, these systems aren't going anywhere, and a profit share or a benevolent profit share, I think, would be a brilliant solution to the growth of these kind of companies, because everybody wins.
All right, well, Richard Buchanan will be checking in with you to see how this Facebook Union movement is doing. Thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thanks, Max.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with Max Keiser and Stacy Herbert. And I want to thank our guest, Richard Buchanan. If you want to send me an email, please do so at keiserreport@rttv.ru. Until next time, this is Max Keiser saying bye, y'all.